disabled millionaire ignored at a wedding, until a maid's 7-year-old son changed everything. The grand ballroom glimmered under the glow of crystal chandeliers, golden accents reflecting like liquid sunshine across the polished floors. The wedding reception was in full swing, the kind of event people whispered about for months, the kind that drew the city's elite in their glittering gowns and perfectly tailored suits. Everyone who was anyone seemed to have arrived. Everyone except perhaps the person who mattered the most in a different sense. Near the grand entrance, in a sleek black wheelchair, sat Damian Harper, 38, a millionaire whose presence usually turned heads, but tonight, no one noticed him. His blue suit was impeccable, pressed to perfection. His tie matched the shade of a clear midday sky. Brown hair combed, shoes polished, posture straight. Damian exuded wealth, confidence, and power. Yet for the 6 elegantly dressed women sweeping past him like he was part of the decor, none of it mattered. A woman in a flowing teal gown brushed past his chair, almost knocking it aside. "Excuse me," Damian said politely, a polite lift of his voice. The woman barely glanced back. Another in navy whispered to her friend just loud enough for him to hear, "Sure he's even supposed to be here?" They giggled, not even bothering to make eye contact. Damian's jaw tightened. He'd been through this before. Not the first time a wheelchair erased his presence in a room. But tonight, he had hoped it would be different. He rolled forward slightly, keeping a dignified distance. The ballroom, all warm candlelight and cream-colored walls, suddenly felt cold and unwelcoming. Then, from a back hallway, someone paused. Watching, Miriam Thomas, 29, dressed in her traditional maid's uniform with a crisp white apron over a blue dress, froze. She had worked at this venue for 3 years, serving wedding after wedding, usually unseen, almost invisible herself. But what she witnessed tonight pierced her like a sudden chill. A man, wealthy, accomplished, in a room of people who prided themselves on status, was treated like he belonged nowhere. And Miriam recognized him immediately. Damian Harper, the tech entrepreneur who had poured millions into programs that made playgrounds and schools accessible, who had ensured kids of all abilities could play together without barriers. The same man who had transformed her neighborhood, whose work her 7-year-old son, Ethan, had enjoyed just last week at Riverside Park. "Mama," a small voice called. Miriam turned to see Ethan, 7 years old, peeking around the corner. His red sneakers contrasted with his neat dark trousers, a bright yellow shirt tucked in with care. Dark curls framed his round, intelligent face, and his wide eyes held the curiosity only a child could sustain. "Who's that man? Why is he sitting all alone?" Miriam's heart clenched. She opened her mouth, but the words wouldn't come. She hadn't prepared a simple answer for the raw question a child could ask with such honesty. Ethan tilted his head, watching Damian intently. "He looks sad, but he's wearing a blue suit, blue like the sky. Maybe he's a prince." The word hung in the air, and before Miriam could stop him, Ethan darted past her legs and began walking across the ballroom floor. "Ethan, wait!" she called, panic rising. But he was already halfway there, his little sneakers clicking against the polished wood. Damian looked up, startled. He had been contemplating quietly leaving. After all, he'd come to celebrate a colleague's wedding, only to be treated as invisible. And yet, here was a small child running straight toward him, unafraid, unjudging. The crowd turned. Conversations paused. Glasses clinked silently in the background as if the entire room had collectively held its breath. 6 women in designer gowns froze mid-step, and even the musicians faltered on a note. "Blue suit man," Ethan shouted, arms stretched wide, face lit with the unfiltered joy of someone who only sees the truth of a moment. Damian blinked. Hello?" he said softly, unsure what to do. Ethan skidded to a stop just in front of him, cheeks flushed, his expression one of complete admiration. "Hi, I like your suit. It's really blue, like the sky. Are you a prince?" Damian laughed softly, a little nervous. "A prince? No, I'm just Damian. What's your name?" "I'm Ethan," the boy said proudly, standing tall for his 7 years. I'm 7. Mama says red is for brave kids. So that's why I'm wearing this. He gestured to his bright shirt and sneakers. You look brave too. Sitting all alone like this. That's not fair. The words landed softly in Damien's chest. The child wasn't just polite. He saw the invisible weight Damien carried every time people looked past him. Miriam rushed forward, cheeks flushing. Ethan, come back, she whispered, embarrassed at the spectacle. I'm so sorry, sir. He's not bothering me, Damien said, voice warm, catching a smile despite himself. He's the first person who's spoken to me like I actually belong here. Miriam's eyes widened. Recognition and gratitude mixed in her gaze. You're Damien Harper. You built the playgrounds, the accessible swings, the sensory gardens. You changed our neighborhood. My son plays there every week. Damien shifted and used to the level of genuine appreciation, especially directed at him personally. I just wanted kids to play together. That's all, he said softly. Ethan tugged at his mother's apron. Mama, why is the blue suit prince alone? Where are his friends? The question hung in the air. Silence fell over the ballroom. One of the 6 women in teal cleared her throat awkwardly. We didn't know. We thought. Maybe he was staff. Damien's voice was calm but firm. Would it have mattered if I were just another person in a wheelchair? Would any of this have changed? Ethan's small voice cut through the silence. Mama says everyone deserves kindness, even if they're different, especially if they're different. You're different and that's okay. A ripple ran through the crowd. The adults who had ignored Damien began to shift, uncomfortable, ashamed. One by one they approached. I'm sorry, Mr. Hayes, said a woman in red. Would you like to join our table? The musicians started playing softly again, but the magic had already begun. Eyes that had passed over Damien unnoticed were now drawn to him. People whispered among themselves. They watched as the child had done what none of them had. See a person for who they were, not their status, not their mobility, not their place in society. Miriam watched from the sidelines, hand over her heart, tears streaming. Ethan, her brave 7-year-old, had changed the room. With nothing but honesty, courage, and a little childlike faith, he had forced grown adults to acknowledge what they had ignored. Damien reached down and held Ethan's small hand, feeling the warmth of innocence and acceptance. You're remarkable, he said softly. No, Ethan corrected, tilting his head. You're remarkable. Sometimes grown-ups forget what really matters. I'm just reminding you. The crowd had gathered closer now, murmurs of awe passing through the guests. Damien laughed softly, a sound of relief and gratitude, and said, Shall we dance? Ethan's grin widened. Yes, let's dance. And together they moved into the center of the ballroom. The adults watched, some wiping tears, others humbled. The bride approached slowly, her eyes red-rimmed. Damien, I'm ashamed, she admitted. I saw how everyone treated you, and I did nothing. Damien shook his head gently. You did. Your child reminded us all what matters. She knelt beside his wheelchair. Would you honor me with the next dance? Let's start this marriage remembering kindness above everything. Damien took her hand, and as the band swelled, they danced. Ethan skipped ahead, his small sneakers moving like sparks across the polished floor, and every adult in the room understood something profound. Dignity, respect, and human kindness can come from the smallest voices, not the loudest or richest. That night, the richest person in the ballroom wasn't Damien. Not the bride, not the celebrities. They were a 7-year-old child in red sneakers who refused to let anyone go unnoticed. Ethan twirled in a circle, laughed, and shouted, Blue Suit Prince, we are the bravest together. And for the first time all evening, Damien felt seen. Truly seen.